Windham, New Jersey. Autumn, 1987. Beyond the iron gates, hidden among 5 acres of century-old oaks on Northgate Road, emerges a mansion of contemporary design that defies everything traditional. 13,607 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, 13 skylights, curved glass walls, circular spaces that from the air resemble a flying saucer. The price, $2.7 million in 1987. Today, more than $7 million adjusted for inflation. Beautiful, yes, but that is only the facade. Behind these walls of concrete and crystal lie systems that consume electricity like a hospital. Monthly maintenance bills reaching $40,000. Rooms that absorb the darkest secrets of one of the greatest voices in history. Who really paid for this dream? Can fame buy you freedom, or does it only build a more elegant prison? Why did one of the most valuable voices in the world almost lose everything she touched? This is a story about beauty, power, and the bill nobody saw coming. Windham Township sits in Morris County, 40 miles west of Manhattan, but a world away. Rolling hills, multi-acre estates, neighbors who are Fortune 500 CEOs. The kind of place where millionaires go to disappear from the radar without surrendering luxury. The mansion itself was a contemporary construction completed between 1986 and 1987. Ultra-modern design for its era. Concrete, steel, and glass. Nothing colonial or Victorian. This was an architectural statement. Bold, different, impossible to ignore. Whitney Houston purchased it in December 1987. She was 24 years old. Her first album had sold 25 million copies. Her second album was about to launch and would be even bigger. She was the most successful woman in music. The world was hers. But numbers never tell the most important part, what it costs to exist at the pinnacle. Because when Whitney signed those papers, she didn't just buy a house. She bought a complete ecosystem that needed constant feeding. And nobody told her how much it would eat. From the outside, the mansion breaks every rule. No classical columns. No traditional portico. It is circular, organic. The walls are curves of glass reflecting the surrounding forests. The roof isn't slate tiles. It's a flat surface punctuated by 13 skylights that flood the interior with natural light. You enter and realize immediately, this is not a normal house disguised as a mansion. This was designed by someone who wanted to live in the future. The main vestibule is circular. Italian marble floors in geometric patterns. The curved walls create perfect natural acoustics. Whitney could stand in the center and sing, and her voice would bounce in an almost magical way. The architects didn't plan it. It was a gift of the design. To the left, the great room. 14-foot ceilings with exposed wooden beams. Stone fireplace rising 2 stories. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the forests. Here Whitney celebrated Christmas 1990. Here they filmed segments of Being Bobby Brown 15 years later. This room saw the best and the worst. The formal dining room features an Italian table for 12, but the design is circular, following the architecture of the house. No corners, no places to hide, everything exposed. Whitney once said in an interview that this house doesn't allow secrets. How ironic that statement became. The kitchen was cutting-edge 1987 design. Stainless steel appliances. Central Island. But nothing like the chef's kitchens that would become popular in the 90s. Whitney renovated it 3 times trying to modernize it. Each renovation cost $80,000 minimum. The 5 bedrooms all occupy the second floor. The master takes the entire east wing. 1,000 square feet. A walk-in closet larger than complete apartments in Manhattan. Marble bathroom with jacuzzi and steam shower. Private balcony overlooking the New Jersey forests. The other 4 bedrooms were for guests who rarely arrived. For family who stayed months. For nannies. For Bobby Christina, who grew up in these circular hallways running through spaces that never quite felt like home. Because there was always someone else. Staff. Guards. Strangers with cameras outside. The 13 skylights were the most distinctive feature of the house. During the day, natural light floods every corner. You don't need electric lights until 6 in the evening. But at night, when you're alone in 13,607 square feet, those skylights become 13 black eyes staring down. Whitney confessed to an employee once, "I hate being here alone at night." The pool is Olympic-sized, 50 feet long, heated for use from May through October. 2 jacuzzis. Complete pool house. Annual maintenance, $12,000. The electrical system runs at 600 amps. Double a normal house. 3-zone climate control. 13 motorized skylights. 32 security cameras. Pool heating. Perimeter lighting. Professional recording studio. Average monthly electric bill, $3,800. In winter, $6,500. 2 industrial gas furnaces heat 13,000 square feet of high ceilings and glass walls through New Jersey winters. Monthly gas cost December to March, $7,500. This is not a house. It is a machine. When the fuel runs out, the machine shuts down. Whitney Elizabeth Houston, born in Newark, New Jersey, August 9, 1963. Raised between two worlds. The Baptist churches where she sang gospel with her mother Sissy, and the Manhattan nightclubs where Sissy performed alongside Aretha Franklin. Her first home was an apartment in East Orange, shared with her mother, brothers, and sometimes cousins who needed a place. Thin walls, screaming neighbors, sirens at night. Whitney shared a room with her brother. There was no space to dream in private. When Clive Davis signed her to Arista Records in 1983, he told her she would be the biggest this business had ever seen. Whitney was 19 and believed it. First album, 1985, 25 million copies. The most successful debut by a female artist in history. Second album, 1987, first woman to debut at #1 on the Billboard 200, 20 million copies. By December 1987, when she purchases the Windham Mansion, Whitney Houston has earned approximately $40 million. After taxes, managers, agents, and family, she keeps about $18 million clean. Buying a $2.7 million mansion seems conservative, reasonable. But Whitney didn't just buy the house. She bought a statement. In 1988 interviews, she explained she wanted a place where she could be herself, where she didn't have to be Whitney Houston all the time, where she could walk barefoot and sing at 3 in the morning without bothering anyone. But there was something deeper she never said publicly. You grow up poor in Newark. Your mother cleaned houses to pay the bills when concerts weren't enough. You watched your father fight with creditors. You heard conversations about money that was never enough. And now you have more money than your entire family has seen in 3 generations. What do you do with that? You use it to build a refuge. Not just a house. A world where the rules are yours. Whitney chose Windham specifically because that's where the richest corporate executives in New Jersey lived. She wanted her neighbors to be CEOs, not other celebrities. She wanted high-level normalcy. And she chose an ultra-modern mansion because she didn't want to live in the past. She didn't want Victorian moldings reminding her of the houses her mother cleaned. She wanted the future. Steel, glass, design that screamed, "I have arrived, and I am never going back." What she built was beautiful, and it was also a decision that would haunt her. Because the future she bought came with a monthly bill that never stopped arriving. The first renovation came in 1988. Cost, $400,000. Installation of whole house sound system. Speakers embedded in every room, controlled from a central panel. Whitney could be in the kitchen and hear music coming from the studio. She could be in the bathroom and rehearse with backing tracks. The entire house became her instrument. Security system upgrade. More cameras. More sensitive sensors. Because by 1988, Whitney was already experiencing fan harassment. People climbing the fence. Photographers camping in the woods with telephoto lenses. Complete master bedroom renovation. Whitney hated the original design. Too cold. Too minimalist. She wanted warmth. They installed Brazilian hardwood floors. Marble fireplace. Custom walk-in closet with jewelry lighting. The bathroom expanded. Custom marble bathtub costing $35,000. Imported from Italy in 3 pieces. The second renovation came between 1992 and 1993. Preparation for the wedding to Bobby Brown. The wedding was held July 18, 1992 in the property gardens. 700 guests. Gazebo adorned with 8,000 roses and hundreds of orchids. Everything in lavender and purple. Whitney's favorite colors. Carpeted aisle from the back door of the house to the gazebo. 7 white doves released after the vows. After the wedding, Whitney invested another $500,000 in improvements. Why? Because Bobby had ideas. And Whitney, in love, said yes to everything. Game room. $15,000 pool table. Video game system. Full bar with premium liquors. This room was in the basement, far from the formal areas. It was Bobby's refuge. Media room. What was once an office became a private cinema. Professional projector. 12-foot screen, 7.1 surround sound system, leather recliners. Cost, $150,000. It was used approximately 20 times in 15 years. The recording studio came in 1995. Whitney wanted to record at home. She didn't want to fly to Los Angeles every time she had an idea. They converted part of the basement into a professional studio. Soundproofed vocal booth. 48-channel console. Reference studio monitors. $8,000 condenser microphones each. The studio cost $380,000 to fully equip. Here she recorded demos for the preacher's wife. Here she rehearsed for tours. And here, years later, Bobby recorded his own projects that never released. The gardens represented constant investment. They brought in a landscaper from Connecticut. Underground irrigation with 180 computerized sprinklers. Installation cost, $95,000. Annual water cost, $15,000. 300 decorative trees. Japanese maples. Cherry blossoms. Magnolias. 500 perennial shrubs. Rose gardens with 200 bushes. Every spring, a crew of 8 gardeners for 6 weeks to plant 10,000 annual flowers. Cost, $35,000 annually. The staff numbered 14 full-time employees. 3 housekeepers. Personal chef at $75,000 per year, cooking even when Whitney was on tour. 2 full-time gardeners plus seasonal workers. 3 security guards in 24-hour shifts totaling $200,000 annually. Full-time nanny. Personal assistant. Property manager. Total annual salary cost, $680,000. But that was just the beginning. Heating through brutal New Jersey winters, $40,000. Electricity running 24/7, $54,000 annually. Water for pool, irrigation, 12 bathrooms, $24,000 annually. Structural maintenance. Slate roof inspections and repairs, $15,000 yearly. HVAC maintenance, $12,000. Pool upkeep, $8,000. Tennis court, $15,000. Gardens, $35,000. Security monitoring and updates, $24,000. Insurance, $18,000 per year. Property taxes, New Jersey among the highest in the country, $85,000 per year. Add it all up. Salaries, $680,000. Utilities, $118,000. Maintenance, $109,000. Insurance, $18,000. Taxes, $85,000. Total annual operating cost, $1,010,000. Over $1 million per year just to keep the lights on and the grass cut. And this in normal years. Without emergencies. Without major repairs. Without the roof that leaks. Without the pipe that bursts in February. Without the electrical system that fails during a storm. Where does that money come from? Whitney earned millions, yes. But most came from tours and albums. Irregular income. One year you might make $20 million. The next 5. It depended on whether you released an album, whether you toured, whether the public kept buying. But the mansion didn't understand irregular cycles. The mansion ate every month without fail. Year 1996. Whitney is at the peak. The Preacher's Wife is a global success. Best-selling gospel soundtrack in history. She seems invincible. But behind the cameras, the cracks are already there. First blow drugs. Whitney and Bobby began consuming cocaine regularly around 1995. At first only at parties. Then at home. By 1997, it was daily. And high-purity cocaine isn't cheap when you're consuming grams per week. Estimated drug cost, $250,000 per year. Cash leaving accounts with no record, no invoices, no accounting. Second blow, uncontrolled spending. Bobby Brown arrived with his own entourage. Friends who stayed for months. Cousins who needed work. Ex-girlfriends asking for money. Whitney paid because it was easier than saying no. Credit cards began accumulating balances. $50,000 one month. $80,000 the next. Shopping in Beverly Hills. Jewelry in New York. Clothes worn once. Cars that crashed and got replaced. Third blow, less successful albums. My Love Is Your Love in 1998 sold well, but not at first album levels. 10 million copies instead of 25. Good for anyone. Insufficient for Whitney's budget. Whitney's estimated annual income in 1998, $12 million gross. After 40% taxes, $7.2 million net. After agents and managers taking 20%, $5.76 million. Sounds like a lot. It is for most people. But Whitney's expenses weren't most people's. Wyndham Mansion, $1 million per year. Manhattan apartment, $200,000 per year. Bobby's Atlanta house, $180,000 per year. Total staff, including tour assistants, $900,000 per year. Drugs and unrecorded cash, $300,000 per year. Extended family expenses, $400,000 per year. Car payments, jewelry, luxuries, $600,000 per year. Total known fixed expenses, $3.58 million. Remaining, $2.18 million. Seems like enough. Until emergencies arrive. 1999, mansion roof leaks during snowstorm. Emergency repair, $150,000. Heating system fails in February. Complete replacement of one of 3 furnaces, $45,000. Bobby Christina needs private school, $40,000 per year. Bobby crashes his Porsche, $85,000 in repairs. Whitney cancels concerts due to voice problems. Lost income, $2 million. Suddenly the numbers don't add up. If they didn't change something, the place would die. And she with it. Whitney Houston, Whitney's mother, 68 years old in 2000. Gospel singer, churchwoman, iron discipline. Sissy never approved of Bobby Brown. She saw him as a parasite, an addict, a destructive influence. But Whitney was an adult. Sissy couldn't control her daughter. What she could control were the finances. In 2001, after seeing Whitney's bank statements, Sissy made an unpopular decision. She hired an external financial administrator, a forensic accountant from New York with a reputation for being brutally honest. First report, she's living $4 million above her income. At this rate, she'll be bankrupt in 3 years. Whitney fired him immediately. Sissy rehired him. Whitney fired him again. This dance lasted 6 months until Sissy gave her an ultimatum. Either you accept help, or I watch you go broke. You decide. Whitney barely accepted. Immediate measures were implemented. Complete audit. Every expense, every account, every credit card. He discovered Bobby Brown had opened 5 credit cards in Whitney's name without telling her. Accumulated debt, $380,000. Staff reduction. From 14 employees in Mindham to 8. They fired the chef. Delivery food. Reduced gardeners from 2 to 1. Reduced cleaning staff from 3 to 2. Annual savings, $240,000. Garden simplification. They ripped out the imported roses. Annual maintenance, $12,000. Replaced with New Jersey native plants. Maintenance, $3,000. Reduced formal lawn. Let secondary areas return to natural state. Savings, $22,000 per year. Wing closures. The 11 guest rooms were closed. Heating shut off in those zones. Furniture covered. Only 8 rooms kept active. Heating savings, $18,000 per year. Sale of secondary properties. The Manhattan apartment sold in 2002. Profit, $2.4 million going straight to pay debts. Cash control. Every expense over $5,000 required approval. Whitney hated this. Bobby ignored it. Cards were cut. Bobby sued. He lost. Drug budget. Yes, you read that right. The accountant wasn't stupid. He knew he couldn't stop the consumption, so he included it in the budget. $10,000 per month. If they're going to destroy themselves, at least make it predictable. The measures partially worked. Annual mansion expenses dropped from $1 million to $720,000. A 28% reduction. But there was a problem. Whitney still wasn't generating consistent income. 2002 was a disaster. Canceled tours. Failed interviews. Her voice, once perfect, was now unpredictable. 2002 income, $3 million. Expenses, $4.2 million. Deficit, $1.2 million. Debts grew. Banks called. Suppliers demanded payment. Sissy made the hardest decision. Either you sell the mansion, or you mortgage it. Whitney refused to sell. The mansion was her identity. It was proof she had triumphed. Selling it would be admitting defeat. So she mortgaged. Loan of $2.5 million against the property. 6.5% interest. Monthly payments, $16,000. Love doesn't pay for furnaces, but pride does sign mortgages. Year, 2003. Whitney does the unthinkable. She accepts a reality show. Being Bobby Brown premieres on Bravo in 2005. The idea, show the couple's real life. The result, a public disaster that fascinates millions. America watches Whitney in pajamas. Drugged. Fighting with Bobby. Speaking incoherently. The queen of pop reduced to morbid entertainment. But the reality show pays $5 million per season. Immediate cash. Enough to keep the mansion 2 more years. The cost, dignity. Whitney's image destroyed. Sissy crying in interviews. Clive Davis stops calling. Brands cancel contracts. In 2006, Whitney makes another desperate decision. She opens sections of the mansion for magazine photo shoots. $50,000 per day. Vogue, Vanity Fair, Harper's Bazaar. All want photos of an icon's fall. The rules: no photographing damaged areas. There were rooms with real damage from neglect. No talking to staff. 2 hours maximum. Whitney isn't present at any session. She sends a representative. Money arrives in trickles. 2007, the strangest turn. A film studio rents the mansion to shoot an independent horror movie. The irony escapes no one. Cost of rental, $30,000 per week. 3 weeks of filming. Whitney goes to a hotel in New York. She doesn't want to see strangers in her sanctuary. But money is money. $90,000 to let actors pretend to be terrified in your living room. Why did people pay? Morbidity, curiosity, fascination with tragedy. America loved Whitney when she was perfect, and now it loved watching her bleed. It's more honest than we want to admit. 2007 marks the beginning of the end. Whitney and Bobby divorce. Brutal legal battle. Bobby asks for half of everything. Whitney fights. Eventually, Bobby receives a $1.2 million payment and leaves. But the damage is done. The mansion that was once refuge is now scene of trauma. Rooms where Bobby hit her. Bathrooms where she consumed drugs. Hallways where Bobby Christina found her mother unconscious more than once. Whitney attempts a comeback in 2009. Album I Look to You. Modest sales, 1.5 million copies. Enough to keep breathing. Not enough to recover what was lost. World tour in 2010. Disastrous. Voice destroyed. Cruel reviews. Canceled concerts. Whitney stops trying. The mansion enters foreclosure in 2011. Whitney hasn't paid the mortgage in 14 months. She owes $1.3 million. The bank threatens auction. Whitney sells in emergency situation. Asking price, $5.5 million. Final price, $1.6 million. Loss of more than $3 million considering original purchase, renovations, and mortgage. The buyer, a New York real estate developer. His plan: divide the property. Build smaller houses. Sell parcels. The mansion would be demolished. The Mendham community opposes. 2-year legal battle. Eventually, the developer sells to a technology entrepreneur, Paul Salem, investor and film producer. Salem invests an additional $2 million in restoration. Hires architects. Returns the property to its 1993 splendor. But he doesn't live there. He uses it for private events. Corporate parties. Executive retreats. Current rental cost, $15,000 per day with 3-day minimum. Includes use of gardens, pool, tennis court. Does not include staff, catering, or post-event cleaning. The business works. The mansion generates between $800,000 and $1.2 million per year. After operating expenses that Salem reduced to $400,000 annually through efficiency and technology, there's profit. Now it's profitable because it stopped being a home. The rooms that once held secrets now host Fortune 500 marketing teams. The studio where Whitney recorded demos is now a conference room with Zoom. The gardens where Bobby Christina played are now settings for millionaires' weddings who never knew who Whitney Houston was. The main salon has a discreet plaque. This property was home to Whitney Houston, 1993 to 2006. That's all. No mention of the addiction, the abuse, the nights when screams pierced stone walls. Sanitized history. Ready for consumption. Whitney Houston died February 11, 2012. Beverly Hilton Hotel bathtub. Accidental drowning with cocaine and medications in her system. 48 years old. Bobby Christina Brown died July 26, 2015. Bathtub in her Georgia home. Drowning. Drugs in her system. 22 years old. 2 generations. Same ending. The Mendham mansion still stands. Intact. Beautiful. Profitable. So who really paid for this place? Not the millions of albums sold. Those went to drugs, lawyers, staff. Not the talent. Talent built the empire. But talent doesn't pay bills when the voice fails. Not Bobby Brown. He only accelerated the inevitable. Whitney paid with her sanity, with her voice, with her dignity, with her life. But she also paid something more fundamental. The illusion that success makes you free. Because the mansion was never freedom. It was another form of prison. A bigger cage with a better view. But bars all the same. Beauty isn't enough. Without protection, without limits, without the ability to say no to the demands of the world and of yourself, beauty becomes burden. Whitney built a palace to escape. and the palace devoured her. Big dreams survive when they learn to serve something larger than ego, when they become institutions, when they accept that individual greatness is temporary, but purpose can be eternal. Whitney never made that transition. Neither did the mansion. It was her temple, her refuge, her trap, and now it's an efficient business. Cold, soulless. Maybe that's the most honest thing. Because in the end, everything reduces to numbers. How much does it cost? How much is it worth? How much can you sustain before it sustains you? Whitney bought a mansion to prove she had arrived. What she didn't know is that arriving isn't the end. It's only the beginning of a cost that never stops being paid. The question isn't whether you can buy the dream. The question is, can you maintain it without it killing you? Whitney Houston couldn't. And her mansion, beautiful and perfect, is still there to remind us of the price.